Today we're taking a look at scientific notation with a calculator. So it's important that you have a calculator. If you don't, go ahead and pause the video and go get one that you can use, because it's going to be important that you be able to follow along and do these things with me here. Your objective is I can understand and use scientific notation with technology. In this case, the technology is a calculator. And then we've got a couple of things here that talk about how to do operations in scientific notation and showing numbers in scientific notation. We'll reference these as we get started with our practice problems. We're going to go ahead and go straight into the practice problems today. So we're going to do 4 practice problems, one of each operation. We're going to multiply, divide, add, and subtract, and we're just going to get some practice doing this with a calculator. It's important that you know how to do scientific notation without a calculator, and we've been working on that, but it's also important you know how to do it with a calculator. And your calculator understands scientific notation in a certain way, so you need to make sure that you understand how this works. So for number 1, it's 2.6 times 10 to the 5th times 1.9 times 10 to the 2nd. Alright, as we begin to type this in, you don't need to type all this in. You don't need to type in your parentheses and then all this stuff. There's a certain way your calculator understands how to do this. So we're going to go ahead and type this in using what we know from up here. It says for operations in scientific notation, the first thing you're going to do is type in the coefficient. So the coefficient, remember, is that leading number there, 2.6, that's in decimal form. So we're going to type in 2.6. And then, instead of typing in times 10 raised to the power of, this is where your calculator sets things up a little bit differently here. So you're going to press second, and then the button above the 7 gives you this E option right there. When you press it, it only gives you one E, I guess just because it's shorter. But the E stands for engineering exponent, and that has to do with scientific notation. So you don't need to type in the times, you don't need to type in the 10, you don't need to even type in this arrow button for raised to the power of. All you need is the exponent next. So the exponent here is 5. So you just need those 3 things, the coefficient, the E, and the exponent. And we're multiplying, so times 1.9, second, E again there that we need for that times 10 raised to the power of, and then 2 is your exponent. So once you get all that typed in, you hit equals, and it gives us our answer here in standard form, but the instructions say to express the result in scientific notation. So now we're going to take a look at the second part of this, which says showing numbers in scientific notation. So to do that, you're going to press the second button, and then you're going to want this sci-ENG option that's above DRG. So hit that button right there. It's going to take you to this menu. Flow stands for floating decimal, which means the decimal will go wherever it needs to go to show the number in standard form. Move over to Sci here, that's what we're looking for, scientific notation. ENG has to do something with engineering, and I'm not really using that option much, so I don't know a lot about it. But you want Sci, so hit enter, and now it'll give you this number in scientific notation, 4.94 times 10 to the 7th. You can even see the little times 10 that they've got in there. And it's got a 0.7 because there's a place for 2 digits there, but we're not going to write 0 there with it. If it's just a 1-digit number, just write the 1 digit that's there. So let's write this as 4.94 times 10 to the 7th. Now, what's kind of tough about this, or can be kind of annoying about this, is that now you've got your calculator in Sci mode. It's going to give you everything in scientific notation. So even if I do something like 5 times 7, instead of giving you 35, it's going to give you 3.5 times 10 to the 1st, which is equal to 35, but it may not be what you want. So if you want to get out of scientific notation, you just go back to that menu. You press second, DRG, go back to flow using your arrow there, and hit enter. And that'll give you your numbers back in standard form. But since we're doing scientific notation, I'm going to go back to scientific notation. So second, DRG, over to Sci, enter, and now we got everything back in scientific notation. Let's do another one with number 2 here. It's 9.72 times 10 to the negative 9th divided by 1.8 times 10 to the 5th. So on this one here, this is division. It's particularly important with division that you type this in correctly. If you don't, and you just type this in as you see it. It's going to do order of operations. It's not going to understand that you're wanting to do scientific notation here, so it's not going to group these together correctly, and you're going to end up with the wrong exponent in the end. So let's make sure we're all doing this correctly here. 9.72, and then second, but above the 7 gives you the E, and then your exponent, which is -9. Again, that's all you need, just the coefficient, the E, and the exponent. No times, no 10, no arrow button there for an exponent. The calculator understands that as scientific notation. So we're dividing, so divided by 1.8, second, E, and 5. So 5.4 times 10 to the -14th. Let's type that in here, write that in. 5.4 times 10 to the -14th power. There's our answer for the first two. So we've multiplied, we've divided. Let's do number 3 here, which is, I think we're adding on this one. So 5.4 times 10 to the 3rd plus, we got 6.8 times 10 to the 5th. Now, when you're doing this without a calculator, and you're adding or subtracting, you have to make the exponents the same first. But with a calculator, you don't have to do that. Your calculator will take care of all that for you and spit out the correct answer for you as long as you type it in correctly. So 5.4 second E3 plus, since we're adding here, 6.8 second E5. And we get 6.854 times 10 to the 5th. 6.854 times 10 to the 5th power. So you notice we don't write it with the EE like we type in with the calculator. We just still write it the way that we see it here, but both of those things mean scientific notation. All right, number 4 is 1.35 times 10 to the 6th minus 1.17 times 10 to the 5th. Usually, again, with subtraction, we'd have to make the exponents the same, but we don't have to here. I'd like you to take a second and just pause the video and type this one in on your own first, using what we've talked about, and see if you can get this correct. And then I'll go through it here and see if you can get the same thing that I got. So you're going to do 1.35. You're going to type in the coefficient. 1.35 second E6 minus 1.17 second E5. And I got 1.233 times 10 to the 6th. And since my calculator's already showing me stuff in scientific notation, I'm good to go. I've got that answer in scientific notation. All right, that's the basics of how to do scientific notation with a calculator. You want to make sure you have these notes to reference back to if you have any questions about that, or you can rewatch this video. We'll do some more in class. We'll see you guys then.